She Shed Comedy with Linda Schwartz, empowering your comedy career.
Hey everybody, welcome back to She Shed Comedy Podcast. I'm your host, Linda Schwartz. If this is your first time listening, then thanks for coming. She Shed Comedy Podcast is produced every week for your enjoyment, and show notes are found at sheshedcomedy.com. This week, I sit down with Rosie Tran, a stand-up comedian from Los Angeles, and we talk about how she views performing as an act of giving rather than taking. And it's a very interesting perspective on performing, and I hope you guys enjoy the episode. Come back often and feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or iTunes. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. All the links are in the show notes. Now let's get into the show. Hey everybody, welcome to She Shed Comedy Podcast. I'm your host, Linda Schwartz, and I'm excited to have my brand new friend, Rosie Tran.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for coming. So, I haven't had a chance to stalk you.
Oh my God.
So,
I should have dragged you to the show last night.
That would have been great, although I was already in bed by like 8:30. So yeah, we're just going to really have some fun and have an organic conversation and really just get into, I'm really interested in knowing how you got into stand-up comedy, why stand-up comedy, and I just have to say also that it's just so nice to be sitting across the way of this table from just another Asian woman doing stand-up comedy. I love it. You know, I think we're a rarity.
We're a rarity, but it's not that rare anymore, actually. When I started, it was like me and another comedian named Bernadette Balagtas, who's Filipino, and now, you know, I actually was judging a comedy contest at Burbank Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank, and there was so many funny women, and a lot of them were Asian, and I was so happy to see so many funny women, but also like a little bit sad. Because I'm like, oh, these women are so funny that like I'm not a competitive person, even though stand-up is a competitive type of, or it can be, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But I'm not a competitive stand-up. But there was so many funny women. I was like, oh my God, like I feel very competitive and insecure because there's so many of them.
I know.
So when people say, oh, there's no funny women, or I don't think women are funny, I really think they're just not seeing enough stand-up. You know, if you're watching Comedy Central, if you're watching mainstream stand-up, there's some women. But if you go out to the clubs, you know, your local clubs, if you live in a big city like San Diego, LA, New York, San Francisco, and you go out to the clubs, you'll just see tons and tons of hilarious female comics where it's just like crazy how many hilarious women there are now.
Yeah. I mean, when I started this podcast, my intention was to, you know, just reach out to my network. And I was like, oh, well, you know, if I get 10 episodes, I'll be great, you know? But what I've really seen and discovered is that other female comics know other female comics. So it's been really opening the doors for people like you who I had absolutely no idea existed.
Thanks.
Sorry. I know that sounds really...
I have no idea who you are, Rosie.
I know. It sounds really awful, but, you know, in the reality of things, it is true. However, it just, but I love discovering new comics. So I'm really excited to know about you now. Yeah. And, I mean, when you reached out, I was kind of surprised because I honestly, I was like, I don't even know how we know each other, if we knew each other at all.
It was the universe, girl. It was the universe.
I know.
So I was on the deep web of Instagram, and somehow, sometimes I click on other people's pages, or I don't know what happened, but somehow you ended up on my feed. I wasn't following you. Of course, I'm following you now. But
yes, I hope so.
I somehow... Evil dark eyes.
You better be.
But somehow you ended up in my feed, and it was a crazy coincidence because I saw that you're in San Diego, and I don't live in San Diego, but I was headlining the Comedy Palace, which is in San Diego, last night. So I thought, wow, perfect.
Cool. Yeah, I'm so glad that you reached out, for sure, and took that initiative. You know, you're actually the first person who has actually reached out to me, which I thought was pretty incredible, being that I've been doing a lot of the asking, and that in and of itself has been nerve-wracking. Like, you know, but most of the women that I've reached out to have said yes. And so thank you for coming on. I'm so honored to have you. And be making a new friend right now. This is like a new friendship in the making.
Oh my gosh.
It really
love
is.
It.
I love it. So yeah, tell us about your stand-up. So how did you get into it? How long have you been doing it? Why you love it so much?
Hopefully I don't have to reveal my age. I've been doing stand-up for over 15 years.
Wow.
I started really young when I was like 10, right?
I know, Asian don't raise.
Yeah. I actually started comedy. I hated comedy.
Really?
I hated stand-up comedy, and I never watched stand-up comedy growing up. I never knew anything about comedy. I would watch funny movies, growing up, and obviously I love to laugh. But I dated a guy in high school who wanted to be a comedian, and I would go to his open mic shows with him, and I thought they were awful. No offense.
Sorry, boo. Ex-boo.
So I was you've probably seen this, but I was one of the girlfriends that kind of tagged along, sitting in the back with their arms crossed, right? Texting on her phone. I don't think there was texting back then. That's old. But so texting on the back, arms crossed. I'm like, when is this over? And he wanted to be in the entertainment industry. And I was trying to actually steer him away from comedy. I was like, why don't you become a screenwriter or a director or something else? Right? But one of the things is I would help him with his jokes. He would say jokes, and I think I have a joke writer's mind, because I would always be like, well, why don't you say it like this? This is funnier like this. Or why don't you try this? And whenever he would do a joke the way I told him, he would get a laugh. He would get a laugh. And I remember he would always say, you're so miserable in the bag. You have a sourpuss face. Why don't you just write 5 minutes of material, and then you can be one of the comics? Then you're not just my girlfriend. You're one of the comics, and you'll have something to talk about with the other comedians instead of just sitting in the back, miserable. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm not a comedian. I'm going to be, I don't know what I thought I was going to be at that age, but I was like, I'm going to be a doctor. I'm not, whatever. I don't know what you're talking about. So fast forward to 2 years later, we broke up, and I was so lonely and depressed, but I was so used to going out every night to comedy shows. Yeah. So I was like, the little seed was planted from his evil soul. and I was like, well, maybe I should write 5 minutes. And it kept going in my brain. I was like, well, maybe I should write, well, what am I going to do tonight? I'm single, well, maybe I should write. And it was funny, because about 6 months before we broke up, I didn't know we were going to break up. But I had started formulating an act in my head, because, like I said, he had planted the seed for years, and I had just, whatever, ignore you. And I had started thinking, well, what would I talk about if I was a comedian? Well, what kind of jokes would I do? And the little seed started growing and growing and growing. Yeah. And so, one night I was like, well, maybe I'll just try it. I'll just try to see if, what I say, if people laugh at it, right? So I went to an open mic, and as you know, open mics are not the most positive environment for comedy sometimes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've been to open mics to listen to other art, like not even, mostly it's music here in San Diego, but there have been a few stand-ups. I'm terrified of open mics.
They're not supportive.
Absolutely terrified of it.
Usually it's very, the audience isn't there to see comedy. It's mostly other artists. Sometimes they're very judgmental. So the vibe is not positive. Yeah. But when I went up there on stage, and mind you, I was a very, very shy growing up, very shy. Something happened to me where I felt very comfortable and very confident in what I was saying. And of course, the first few years of stand-up, you're not that funny. But I was okay. You know, I look back at my old stuff and I kind of cringe just because it's older material. But looking back as an objective person, I was okay. I was like, I think I had the comic. You have to have something to be a comic. Totally. You can't just be like the average Joe, right? But I'm not saying talent, but I'm saying you have to have that comic mind, right? You know, to look at things a little bit weird.
Skewed, like maybe a skewed view of things.
Or think of things in a little quirky way or a funny way. And I think I had the, So that's the story. And then 15 years later, here I am, still doing comedy. So I definitely fell in love with it. And it really helped me. It really healed me.
Let's talk about that, because that's come up a number of times in previous previous guests. And as a matter of fact, one of the reasons why I got into stand-up was because I was going through a really hard time. And even for like a brief period of time, those 5 minutes that I had on stage, I forgot all about my problems. And it was such a cathartic thing for me that I was like, this is something that I would love to do. It took about it's been like 6 years since then. But now I'm back.
No one needs to know that.
But I'm in this place in my heart and in my spirit where I feel like I just needed this time to just metabolize a lot of emotions. And I watch a lot of stand-up. I watch a lot of comedy. It's something that really helps me get to the heart of my own stuff. And
yes.
And it's such a healing process. Like,
it can be. It can be. So let's talk about it. So comedy can be very, very dark, or very, very light, or a mix. Okay. So I find comedy to be very healing. Some people I know are comedians. They're very depressed.
Yeah.
And they're very miserable. And I used to be like that as well. But I have shifted into the light, and I think it's a good way to address problems and to address issues, and also to bring light into the world from pain.
Absolutely.
Because they say comedy is pain plus time, right?
Yes.
So you take pain and then you make light of it. Joan Rivers always said, she has this amazing documentary called Joan Rivers, A Piece of Work. And she's on there and she's making fun of disabled people. And this guy in the audience starts heckling her. He's like, screw you, F you, my son is disabled. And she looks at him and she said, why do you think I'm doing this? And it's such a sincere, and she's saying, hey, I'm trying to take your pain and this is how we deal with it. This is how and it was such a positive way. And she said, we're trying to take the pain and we're trying to lighten it. So I have been in darkness, and a lot of comedians have been in darkness.
Yeah.
It can be a very, very dark, but it can also be very light. And when I shifted to the light, then it totally changed my comedy. Let's say I was a little bit in darkness. I kind of had a rough first show, but it's changing from taking to giving. So what's the difference? So taking is, I need to have a good show. Right. I need to have a good set. If I don't have a good set, I'm going to be depressed. They need to laugh at me. So the energy is going this way towards you. And if you do that as a comedian, you're never going to be happy. Yeah. The giving is this way. So what does that mean? I am joy. I am light. I am bringing joy. I am making your day better. I'm here to freaking make you happy and give you a piece of joy for your week. So the energy is going out. So it's just a shift of energy. Same jokes, same material, but just a shift of energy.
And a shift in perspective. So what I'm hearing you say is that really it's comedy can be an act of service. It can be an act of getting out of your own way and loving people. And
let me tell you a story that just exemplifies this.
Yes.
Okay, so from taking to giving. So I was performing at this one show one time, and this guy, arms crossed, frowning, looked miserable. So coming from a taking perspective, I was like, what's wrong with him? Why isn't he laughing? What's wrong with me? What's the problem? Right? Because I wanted him to laugh at me, give me attention. Well, after the show, he came up to me and I asked him. He came up to me and I said, I just want to know, did you, and before I even started asking, he said, I just wanted to let you know I really enjoyed your show.
Oh, wow. And
so I said, well, can I ask you why you weren't laughing? And he said, you know what, Rosie, I just had a really, really awful day, and you really brightened my day. So if I had come from a perspective of giving, it doesn't matter what's happening out there. You're giving a gift, and if someone wants to take it, they will. And sometimes people are there to take the gift, but you're judging it. If you're coming from a me, you're judging it from a way where you can't see what's happening. This guy enjoyed my show. He loved my show. Yeah. I lifted his spirits. I brightened his day. But if I was coming from me, which I was at first, then it was, well, why isn't he laughing?
Right.
What's wrong? What's the problem?
Right.
So it can, if it's like you said, the perspective of giving and giving a gift.
Yeah, I love that because, what's come forward for me is that one of the reasons why I've always wanted to do stand-up is because laughter is the gift of comedy. It really is. And it took me a while to really tap into that purpose. It took us $13,000 in a spiritual psychology class. But
hey, you got there. Some people never find it.
But no, I feel like there is this healing aspect of it when you come and approach the craft from a place of service, because I feel like entertainers are in the service industry. We are there to give people a sense of relief or a sense of just enjoyment.
And don't ever let another comedian tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
Because I have been in the industry for a long time. I have a lot of positive comedian friends, a lot of negative comedian friends, and I love them all. But I've heard comedians tell me, well, you're just too positive to be a comic. You know, you're not unhappy enough. Don't fall into the poor me victim, artist. A lot of people think, that you hear these stories, Van Gogh cut his ear off, and, you hear these, like, desperate stories of these artists, and you think, well, you just have to suffer to be an artist. You need to suffer. No, you don't need to suffer. All you're doing is taking suffering and using it to make light. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. I'm telling you right now, I have suffered in comedy and I have not suffered in comedy, and not suffering is a lot easier.
No, I love that you just brought that up, because I've already had a lot of suffering in my life. I was like, I've already paid my suffering dues, okay? So I'm stepping into this with, like, I really do want to have a lighthearted and loving experience around this, because I don't know if you know this. You probably don't, because we just met. But so I started a stand-up comedy class about 2 weeks ago. So I'm getting back into it. And I'm coming up to this point where my teacher's asking us to, like, really look through the files of our life and just speak about it. Yeah. And in the past, I would have been crying over the things that I'm talking about now. But now I've come from a really objective place, and, like, being able to curve this view around my life and be able to call the material from all of the hardships and struggles and suffering, and I love that you said that we don't have to suffer.
You don't have to suffer.
I feel like suffering is
no more suffering.
It's an absolute choice, and I feel like that's a life choice. It's not just about comedy. It's about everything. That suffering really is a matter of choice.
We don't need to suffer, and
suffering is optional, people.
I'm telling you, it is so much better. I was sitting in the back of the show last night watching some of my opening comics, and I was laughing so hard. And one of the guys came up to me. He goes, I love your laugh. It keeps me going, because sometimes I would laugh. One of the comics was struggling. I don't want to say who, and the silent, awkward moments of him struggling made me laugh genuinely, just because I know him and I know he's really funny, and just the audience wasn't getting him. And he said, that it just, I knew if I could hear your laugh in the back, that I was doing well.
Aww,
and I was funny, even though the audience wasn't telling me I was funny. And that's how I've always been. Me and my sisters would go watch comedies, and there would be awkward parts, and the whole theater's quiet, and we're just laughing like, oh my God. I remember my girlfriend in college her parents getting a divorce, and her mom changed the locks. So her dad came home, he was locked out, and she was telling me the story. She was crying, she was all upset, and I just started laughing so hard. And she's like, Rosie, why are you laughing at me? I'm trying to tell you this story. It's awful. My dad got locked out. I said, because can you just imagine coming home and you're just locked out in your own house? And I just started laughing, and she caught it, and she just started laughing. She's like, you know what, that is really funny and awful, but it's hilarious. And she said, you know what, thank you. I called a couple girlfriends, and I was talking to them about it, and they were commiserating with me. Oh, that's so awful, and let me tell you about, and I'm just sitting, oh my God, that's horrible. And I'm just sitting there laughing at her pain, and it transformed her. And she was like, you know what, that is really funny. She's like, my mom's crazy.
Yeah, I feel like comedy, like, comedians are magicians in a lot of ways, because it is an act of transformation, like an
instant transformation. Instant
transformation. It is like magic. It's like magic when you can transform somebody's reaction to something, especially when they're having, like the gentleman in the audience that night. Like, he might have looked like he was, I mean, he obviously told you that he had a bad day.
He physically looked like he hated the show. Arms crossed,
But, on the inside, though, like, it created some levity and it some lightness inside of him. And I feel like stand-up comics, or comedy in general, like, really has this capacity to transform people instantly. And I love that I'm just sitting across the way from another Asian woman doing this, because I was like, oh my God, I just need to find more Asian ladies. And I'm just so, I'm just so honored, honestly. And I feel like, we're soul sisters already.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
so wise. I love you. So, I would love, speaking of Asians in entertainment, and, so this movie just recently came out.
Yeah, what's up? Crazy
What were your thoughts? How did that make you feel?
So I want to talk about Asians in the entertainment industry in general.
Yes.
Because I have a really positive story related to this.
Great.
So sorry, you guys. I'm going to be the positive, annoying positive chick.
No, we love it. This is what this show is about.
Okay. So when I first started in comedy, there was like no Asians doing comedy. And now there's a lot of Asians doing comedy and a lot of really successful Asians. You know, Ali Wong got a special on Netflix, 2 specials, and there's other things happening. And, you know, part of me was really, really happy for them. And then part of me was really, really jealous. Yeah. Really jealous. Like, why them? Why not me? You know.
Of course.
It's natural. So I want to talk about, you know, because this is something that anyone can deal with. You know, if you're a white male, you know, I'm sure you see tons of white males in Comedy Central and you go, why this guy? Why not me? You know, or just anyone in general. You know, so I want to focus on being happy for other people. And so what happened was, you know, I remember a colleague of mine who I know really, really well getting a comedy special, not Ali, but another comedy special. And I was so jealous. And I didn't like that. I don't like that feeling of jealousy.
Yeah.
It's very negative and very awful in my mind. And the feeling of jealousy comes from you took something away from me. That's where it comes from.
Scarcity mindset.
Something that I could have.
Yeah.
And then I thought about what is the reason that I got into comedy? Why did I decide to do comedy? And I told you the story how I got into comedy, but I didn't give you the why. So when I was applying for colleges, I had I was submitting for an Asian American scholarship, and I was doing research for my scholarship paper, and I found this awful statistic that Asian American women have some of the highest rates of suicide.
Really?
In America. Asian American, not in Asia, Asian American.
Yes.
And part of the reason in the study that I found is because there's no representations. There's not that many positive representations of Asian women in the media.
Yeah.
It's, you know, we're playing prostitutes.
Right.
We're playing hookers that don't speak English. We're playing, you know, if it's positive, it's a valedictorian or a nurse. But there's a lot of negative, you know, representations of Asian women.
And narratives in the media.
Very negative narratives. So one of the reasons I really got in there is because I thought, well, maybe I can be that positive role model, right?
I love it.
So when I see these other Asian women and I get jealous of them, I was like, wait a minute. You know, they're helping me. They're helping me with my mission.
Yes.
So even if it's not me, it's happening. They're helping me with my goal and my mission and my intention of why I got into comedy.
Yeah.
Right? So I did this awesome meditation. It's called the Meditation for Loving Kindness. Have you heard of it?
No, but I'm totally into that.
Okay, so
I'm already into it.
So it's called the Meditation for Loving Kindness. It's a Buddhist meditation. You close your eyes and you think of someone who's bringing you negative energy, like jealousy or envy, and you just wish them all the love in the world.
Oh, yeah, I've done this.
Yeah, so you wish them positivity, you wish them love. And I thought this was going to be really, really hard. The first time it was hard, but the second time I was thinking of this one Asian woman who I know, she's actually a friend of mine, and I had so much jealousy towards her for getting something I felt I deserved, right?
Yeah.
And I just wished her positivity and love, and all of a sudden I just started burst out crying, and I thought, oh my God, I'm holding all this negative energy against this woman who's just trying to do the same thing I am, and she's just trying to live her life and be a positive role model or whatever, but she's helping me with my goal by being a positive representation of an Asian woman. So I don't know if when you were little you ever went to Santa Claus at the mall and you're like, Mommy, why is he here? How come he's not at the North Pole?
No, we were too poor. I didn't know. We didn't know about Santa Claus when I was growing up. Shit.
No. So we would go to the mall and they would have the ghetto Santa at the mall. And I'm like, well, Mom, isn't he supposed to be at the North Pole? Why is he at the mall? And my mom said the sweetest thing. She's like, well, this isn't really Santa. This is one of Santa's helpers. He's one of his helpers because Santa's at the North Pole. He's busy making toys. So this is one of his helpers. And that's why you see different Santas at different malls. So every time I see someone who's a woman or an Asian woman or an Asian American and they're out living their best, I'm like, that's one of my helpers. They're helping me with my goals.
I love that.
They're helping me spread the word that minorities are funny, that women are funny, that Asians are funny. So I'm all good with that. So I'm happy that this movie is in the mainstream, and I'm happy it's doing well because you know what? They're gonna have to make an Asian, fun, crazy, Rich Asians too, and it was a huge.
It's already in the works.
Yeah, and they had a huge success with it. So the studios are going to be thinking, hey, we need to make more Asian films. So this film, which I think is awesome, and I have two friends in it, Jimmy O Yang and Ken Jeong, and it's just lifting the tide for other people. So it's awesome.
I saw that movie the day it came out. We bought tickets and I went to like a 2:00 showing because I was so excited about it. And for me, like I didn't think that I was gonna get as emotional as I got because, I was like, because I like to think that I'm strong and I got my shit together. But in reality, like I was just sitting there watching this film and I was brought to tears just by seeing Asian Americans on the screen. And I'm like, even talking about it now is getting me really emotional because you're absolutely right. It's like being able to see representation.
It matters.
It definitely matters. And it opened this realm of possibility for me that I didn't think was possible, and I've been pursuing, acting and performing since maybe 2008. And I've found myself like starting and stopping so many times because it was like, well, like, why I don't feel God, this is so hard to do as an Asian woman, and I feel like this movie really just opened up a whole new world and a whole new realm for people out there. Are so many Asian actors and actresses and comics out there that we don't even know, like, and I feel like it really has, like you said,
representation matters.
Representation absolutely matters, and it is rising the tide for all of us to be seen and heard and have our voices represented.
But be seen and heard authentically.
Yes, absolutely.
And not as, the nail salon lady.
Absolutely.
Because every Asian person in Hollywood knows they've gone on enough nail salon lady auditions, So to be represented as a normal person, a love interest, that is revolutionary. Yeah. To be represented as something other than a stereotype. And I think that, is very important. The fact that a major motion picture of an all Asian cast hasn't been made since the Joy Luck Club. It's been 25 years.
I know. So I was in a production of the Joy Luck Club in 2008, I think, and I played Lena. It was like the very first role that I'd ever gotten, a part in, and I had just started acting. I think I was in an acting class or signed up for an acting class, and then I went on this audition and got it. And I was like, oh my God, it was terrifying.
You're like, whoops.
I know. And I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing. Who are these people? Why are they like trying to hire me?
They must be unprofessional.
Oh my God. But and it was such an amazing experience to be in that and have that experience, because I honestly, it really set the foundation for me, even though, we haven't seen anything since then. That movie really did open up a lot of doors for us as well.
It did. It was the first. It was the first major motion picture, and I think it will always have a special place. But I think representation really matters, and I was shocked when I read that statistic. I was writing my little paper in college. I was shocked by it. It floored me, but I could see it because there's a lot of pressure in the Asian American community to succeed and be successful. Oh my God. And be straight A students and be doctors and lawyers, yet there's no positive mainstream representation. Yeah. And when I saw that statistic, it just floored me. I thought, wow, Asian American women have the highest suicide rate. I was like, this is great, insane. Yeah. And they directly linked it to the lack of representation, the lack of, when you see. And this is also very common in the Native American community. Yeah. Native Americans are represented in a very, negative way and as victims, and so that perpetrates in the Native American community. And it's very hard to feel empowered about yourself when you feel like you've been victimized and your entire race has been victimized. Yeah. And so, I think, I can't remember her, Viola Davis. I don't know. She's on How to Get Away with Murder. Yeah. She won the SAG award, and she said, it's so important to see strong Black women and Black women that have a different storyline than a different. Because she's like, I want you guys to know I'm here, and we're here, and we can do it. And so that role model aspect is so important. So absolutely. I think this movie, any movie that comes out with, the more Asians, the better. Let's do it, guys. Until you're sick of us.
Yes. Absolutely. I love it. Oh wow, like I am so enjoying your presence here today. You're so wise. Oh,
it was all that suffering.
I know, right? Oh my God.
In the early days. and sometimes, suffering is always there. You try to kick it out.
Yeah. But you just have a different way of relating to it now, I think. I know I do, at least my own suffering. I'm quicker to reframe things these days because I feel like I've just done so much work and so much personal development and stuff. But anyways, if there's anything that you'd like to share, like a piece of wisdom or just, some advice.
About comedy?
Yeah, about comedy, about life, about, the journey into comedy. What would you like to share?
Oh, I would just tell everyone to do their thing and don't be afraid of the consequences. I was just talking to a friend about this, is that I'm just now, after 15 years, getting my YouTube channel in arrays, in order. And I have a YouTube channel that's kind of outdated. I'm working on revamping it. And, when YouTube first came out, I was so scared to make a mistake or post a video that wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't want to post a comedy clip unless it's perfect. And I was so scared, and it really held me back. And now seeing all these YouTube stars blossom and blow up and explode, and looking back, a lot of people got followings just from not knowing what they're doing and having fans watch them learn how to do stuff and watch them learn how to make mistakes and not to judge yourself so harshly, because I think that that's something that held me back, was my fear of failure and my fear of showing, all of the warts and all the mistakes and stuff. And I think that we live in such an amazing time now with the internet and Instagram TV and YouTube and Twitter and who knows what's next.
So overwhelming.
It's so overwhelming, so much social media. But the awesome thing is that it's really democratized the system. So before, you had to get a deal, you had to be with CBS, you had to be with NBC, you had to be signed with a big manager, you had to be signed with a big agent to do anything. Now you can create your own following, you can do the She Shed, comedy podcast. Yeah, and get followers and find people who are interested in what you're doing. And even with a very, very, very small fan base, you can make a living and thrive, as long as you have some people that kind of get you and are into you, right? Yeah. So it's democratized the entertainment industry, writing, creative industries, and even business. You can start your own online business and be your own boss. Yeah. So I would just tell people to go out there and fail and fail and fail, because that's the only way you're going to learn. And that was one of the biggest mistakes I made. So don't make the mistake I made. Go out and fail, because failing is awesome.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I mean, I've this journey that I've been on, it's like I've been editing myself and censoring myself for such a long time that it's like, I know.
People want to hear it. They love it.
Oh, yeah. And now these days I'm like, whatever. Let's just, I don't care. Let's just go on ahead and put it out. Like, I'll do something in one shot. I'm like, whatever.
It's better to put it out there, and you can always delete it off YouTube later.
Exactly.
Like, delete. No one that can happen.
And I feel like you're absolutely right. Like, making mistakes is the only way you're going to learn. And so last week in my class, oh God, so we wrote, I've been writing material for a little while now, and in class our teacher had us get on stage and just say our material. And when the class started, my heart it literally felt like it was on fire. I mean, it felt like it was about to just spontaneously combust, because my body was so hot. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. This is so scary. And there was only 6 people in the class. And he called me up, and I just sped through my material without it felt like I didn't even take a breath of air, like a gasp of air. I just, because I was so scared. And I've, been on stage before. I don't have a problem talking to people, but for some reason that stage and that microphone and speaking my own material was just so terrifying. And I could see in my teacher's eyes, he's like, just looking at me, waiting for me to stop.
It's like, breathe.
Just fucking breathe, Linda. And I felt, after that, I just felt like I I just disappointed myself because I've done this before and I shouldn't have sped through it. But yet at the same time, that was the biggest mistake that I needed to make at that moment. And knowing that this next class I'll get better, I'll slow down and just breathe and enunciate my words, and I'm okay with that. Like the judgment, I think also keeps us from really stepping into something fully and authentically, like the self-judgment, yes. Right? Like the feeling like I can't make a mistake, otherwise, it's gonna be the end of my life.
But here's the crazy thing, is like, you have to be your biggest fan, and I think, growing up in my family, it was taught that kind of propping yourself up is ego, it's arrogant.
Yes.
And it's not. Let me tell you, this is a very harsh world in general, not just the comedy world. It's a harsh world. So if you're not going to be your biggest fan, who is,
Exactly.
So, I love my husband, but I'm sure sometimes he gets sick of my comedy and like sick of the antics and everything. And it's like, I need to believe in myself 100% more than anyone else.
Yeah.
More than my husband, more than my family, more than, you have to be your biggest fan. And if you're not going to mess up, then you're not going to learn,
Totally. I second that.
I bet you're hilarious and you're going to breathe next time.
Oh my God, I know.
Like Linda passed out on stage. She wasn't breathing.
I might have to get like an oxygen tank this week. Oh my gosh. But I think we're coming up to the top of our time together. Rosie, thank you so much for reaching out and wanting to come on the podcast and seeing something in the podcast that you wanted to come on.
Yeah,
even.
This is great. Hello, I'm in the She Shed podcast. Like, shed.
It is really a shed. So thank you again. I'm so honored, and I appreciate you and what you're doing and what we're doing together as Asian women and as female comics, and spreading the light. I feel like that's been my mission and my purpose too, and one of the reasons why I started this show anyways. And so thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
So if people are listening and watching, where could they find you?
Yeah, so the most important thing is to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My Instagram is Out of the Box Rosie, which is based on my podcast, Out of the Box Podcast with Rosie Tran. So listen on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. And also my Twitter's @FunnyRosie.
Yay! Oh, you're so professional. And I'm sorry we didn't get to talk about your podcast.
That's okay. People can listen to it and find out about it.
Tune in, guys. Thanks for listening. Take care. Love you. Bye.
She Shed Comedy. Like us, follow us, share us. Tune in next time.